Hey, it's Rich, the Louisiana Hobby Guy. Today I've got another budget diode laser engraver to review. It is the TwoTrees TTS-55, which I guess stands for 5.5 watt. Stay right there. We're about to get started. All right, so TwoTrees reached out to me and they said, we have a new version of our 5-watt diode laser that we'd like you to test and do a review on. Would you like to do it? So I said, sure. My viewers really like these reviews. They like to see what the machine's capabilities are, what they can do, what they can cut, what they can engrave, and so on, and how well they engrave. And I have to say that for a budget machine, I was quite impressed with some of the features on this. Now, this is lacking some of the features that, the more expensive machines have. But, things like limit switches, and, I'm going to get into that at the end of the video. So make sure you stick around after the cut and engrave videos, because I'm going to sum up who the buyers are for this type of laser. And it's probably not going to be for the newbie. It's going to be for somebody that's got a little experience. So stick around till the end, and I'll talk more about that when we visit at the end of the video. So let's get on to the cutting, engraving capabilities of this. And I didn't have my typical, it just came in today, my typical 2mm basswood to run these tests on, but I did find an old piece that had some nice pieces left on it, and I reclaimed that one and I ran the tests individually. So we're going to go through them one at a time. Ready? Here we go. All right, so we're going to do this a little different today. First thing we're going to start with is the software that comes on the USB card. In here you've got the driver. Now, if you've never used a laser before with the machine that you have, or you have a new computer, you'll want to double click this file and install the driver. That's the first thing that you'll want to do. So if we come back over here, in the second folder we've got Laser Gerbil. They've got two different versions of it, the operating manual, some sort of tutorial. The third one, we've got the app. I don't use the app, so I'm not going to use it today. I've watched other people's reviews. They say that the app works very well. So I'm not going to fool with it because I don't use it. They also include lightburn in here. There's the lightburn manual. There's the 64-bit, which is most modern computers, the 32-bit for Windows, Mac, and the Linux distribution. Most people are going to choose the Windows 64-bit. And then in here, you can run this, or you can just download Lightburn from Lightburn's website to get the most recent version. Then they've got some test files in here. These are NCs, so these are for Laser Gerbil, and just a couple of little pictures. I don't know, they could have put more than that, but. And then over here, we've got some web files and PDFs. I haven't looked at those yet. Laser tools. This is something different. This is the firmware updater. So you'll want to take note of this, laser tools. And I did do a firmware update on it, and it worked just fine. Very easy firmware updater, by the way. So with that out of the way, that's what's on the SD card. Let's move over to the website. And yeah, I'm sort of doing this backwards today, but I figured I should cover this first because, so you know what we're working with. So this is the TTS-55, which is the newest version of the dual Y-axis motor laser. It is a budget laser at only $299. That's nice. It does ship from the United States. It has a 5.5 watt diode laser, and actually it's a very strong 5.5 watt. I can tell you that because I used a 5.5 watt library on the testing, and it overburned everything. I really believe that. Cute looking machine, the blue and the black, nice little picture on the front. I don't like the fact that the controls come out of the top the USB and the power connection. Those should come out of the sides, but that's okay, not a big deal. So let's scroll down a little bit. Now this is a 300 by 300 machine. It does have the option to expand it to 400 by 430 for a few more dollars. Let's take a look and see what we got here. So the FAC lens, you have the laser diode up here. Then you have the lenses and a collimating lens. So there are three set. This is collimated to a 0.08 by 0.08 spot size, which is very fine. That's about the best you're going to get with today's lasers. So it works really well. It does have the 32-bit motherboard if you pick this one. Easy to install. Yes, everything was very simple except for the X-axis belt. That took over a minute all by itself. So the updates, the ruler, I don't think anybody uses the ruler. Emergency stop button, no, it's an on-off switch. I think emergency stop buttons are just fluff on lasers. Just to turn the switch off and that turns the power off. This I do like, the stepped focusing column. So at the top here, you've got the top step for engraving, like pictures. Then you've got the second step. So this would be for like cutting 2mm wood. The third step, which would be for cutting 3 or 4mm wood. And then you've got the bottom step for 5mm and up. And this does cut really super well. You'll see in just a moment. And that's about it for the website. So let's jump into the actual testing. All right, so let's take a quick look at this assembled product. And it's got a nice little focus gauge here with different levels on it. I like that. So if you're going to cut, there are no limit switches on this, so you have to manually bring this to the home position when you're first starting, before you turn the machine on. That's how you home this machine. There are no limit switches. There are no hard stops either. So you just have to manually bring it to right here to the home position. And then from there, I always work in absolute coordinates, so I find it very easy to use. A couple of the features on this that are really nice, that I like, are these little plastic wire holders, because they stay up and out of the way the entire time, no matter where you put it. The second thing that I like is the focusing gauge. You turn it from here, so you can get a good focus on whatever it is that you're about to engrave or cut. The third thing I really like is this cover. So notice the magnets on there. So if you just slide this under and pop it up like that, it snaps right into place, which is really nice. And while you're engraving, if you happen to be using a magnet or something like that, and let's say you hit it, of course it's got to be higher than that, this pops right off. So you don't have to worry about it ruining your engraving. That is an ingenious idea. I really like that a lot, the magnetic cover. There are 2 stepper motors for the Y-axis, one on each side, and then a third stepper motor for the X. So good idea taking, not having the motor up here. That's a great idea, because this doesn't wobble at all. There's no play, no movement at all. I did have to adjust the eccentric nut on that, but not a big deal. The Y frame comes assembled and has the timing belt already installed, which is nice. The X is a problem. I thought this was going to be a super simple build, but you have to take this piece apart to put the belt in here. And on this side, getting it to fit, I don't know if I can get in there, onto that stepper motor is next to impossible. There's almost no room under it. So it took me a whole minute or so to get that belt around that drive pulley. Basic build, basic machine. I like everything it does. If you like working in absolute coordinates, it works just fine. So I had no problems with it whatsoever. It's a good basic machine. Okay, so this is the first start of the TwoTrees, and I think we'll start off with some supplied cardboard, nice thick cardboard that they supplied with the laser. So we'll lay that down on there and we'll do some engraving. Let's turn it on. Keep your fingers crossed now and make sure it comes on. And it's on. Okay, so that's good to know. All right, I do have it focused. Let me set it up real quick in lightburn. Let's see if that works. I'm going to move it. Yep, it sure worked. It connected fine. Seems to be moving okay. I did want to jog it up to the alignment point here. There it is, right there. Let me move it back just a little bit. And they have these two white lines over here, and it is aligned properly. So we're good to go there. Okay, so let's jog it up to where we think it should be. Or get an idea anyway. Maybe right there. Let me come to the... I have SpongeBob on my work bed. Let's frame out SpongeBob and see what happens. And I think SpongeBob is a little too big. So let's shrink him down. I don't want to do something that's going to take too long. I think he's in the wrong place too. So let's try and do him up there instead. That's a little too far up. I hit the end stop. And that looks to be pretty good right there. So we'll go ahead and start this now. I'm figuring that 4,080 is what I set it at. So we're going to start it at that. This is just the first burn, just to get an idea of the laser power. And we'll run the universal test card next. So I'll speed this up and then I'll be back when it's done. Alright, so there we go. It's finished. Let's see what we get. I'm expecting this to be really fine engraving with no squiggly lines because, let me just explain that first. There's nothing up on top here. So this is not going to wiggle back and forth as it moves. They put the stepper motors on both sides. And, you know, I don't know why they did that. They could have put a lead screw behind it, you know, like a 3D printer does. One stepper motor in the middle, turns both, but that's up to them. But anyway, the stepper motors are on either side, so there's no weight for this to wiggle back and forth. And you're not going to get the little squiggly lines that you might get on some lasers. So let's take a look and see. You'll see what I'm talking about here. That is a perfect engraving. Came out absolutely perfect. This is at 2,000 speed, 80 power. 4,000 speed, 80 power, excuse me. And it did a really, really, really nice job on that. Let's move on to the next test and we'll run that universal test card. All right, so here I did the first grayscale test up on the top and it just obliterated it. And I am using settings for a 5-watt laser. So that kind of surprised me. So this has a little more power than the typical 5-watt laser, or, you know, let me say the ortur laser, because that is the library that I was using here. So I wound up running the second one at half the power, and it was still too much. So I guess that's a good thing. So the next test was, next part of the universal test card was the cutout. All right, next up is the image test, and I did Jarvis, dither, newsprint, and Atkinson. And even with the power reduced, about 70% power is all I could get any results from. So it does have a lot more power than a typical 5 watt. But you'll see that it did a good job. I'm going to show you all of these pictures in the end close up so that you can get a better idea. So now I moved on to acrylic. I did the engraving on the acrylic at 2000 speed and 90 power, and I did the cutout of the acrylic at 90 speed and 100 power. And it did an absolutely beautiful job. I mean, this came out wonderful. You'll see the pictures in just a few minutes. So let's take a look at a few of the different burns that we did here. And this first one is just an eagle that I pulled off the internet. And I did this one in Jarvis at 6,000 speed and 100% power. Did a really fine job. Look at the black background, came out nice. All the different shades in here. Did a good job on the eagle. This is the grayscale test, and I used my regular 5.5 watt library settings to do this, and I should have doubled the speed because it does have a lot of power. You can see the grayscale in here as it comes up, but you know, this just got too dark up here, so I needed to increase that speed. Better than expected job, put it that way. This is the photo power. I did this at 100% power, 3,500 millimeters per minute with a minimum power of 10, and it just cut up Jarvis. Then this was before I did the eagle. I did this test first. Dither came out really nice at 70%. Probably would have came out better at 60, or I could have upped the speed. I probably should have run this test at 6,100 to get accurate results. Now the newsprint came out fine. We'll zoom in just a little bit. And the Atkinson was so-so. All in all, it looks like the dither was the best over here, and probably if we went 60, it would have been perfect. Next is the cut test, and this did a fine job cutting. Now, keep in mind that this is a piece of 2mm wood. And that's how I test everything, is with the 2mm. Lately, I've run out of it. I used a last little piece that I had for this test just because it's 5.5 watts. I didn't want to run it on the 5mm plywood that I've got. I've got more 2mm coming in. But anyway, right down to 1mm, you'll see it's a perfect square. Let me zoom way in on this and see if I can get an idea. You see how perfectly those are cut? All the way through and popped right out. And they're perfectly square, perfectly round, no problems with it whatsoever. And of course I had to do my little friend here, Stewie, I think his name is, from Family Guy. And I do this on almost every laser. I don't know why, don't ask me why. But there are some really tight spots in here that I wanted to see. And these two lines, and these loops is my indicator, which is a reason why I use this. And then this ear over here, you know, all of these fine details came out just wonderful. Those are some of the tests that I did. Oh, one more. I forgot about the acrylic. The acrylic came out superb. Did a great job. So this is just an army rank, and look how beautiful the texture is on this. Really, really nice texture on the engraving. And you'll see that this part is not engraved right here. Did a really beautiful job on the acrylic. And the cut was simple. It cut the acrylic like butter. This is a good little cutting machine for a 5.5 watt laser. Usually you'll say that 5.5 watt lasers are not for cutting, but this was 2mm acrylic and it went right through it. And I believe it was 90 speed, 100 power. No problem whatsoever. All right, so let's visit for a while and give you an overview of what I think about this machine. It's a budget machine, absolutely. $299. Can't go wrong for the price. It was very simple to set up. The only little quirk I had was with the X belt. And like I said, it took me a little long, a little frustrating, you know. Make sure no kids are in the room when you're doing it. But it took me about a minute to maybe a minute and a half at the most to get that done. It wasn't a big deal, but it wasn't outlined very well in the manual. So I had to fiddle with it and try and figure out how to put it in. But the easiest way to do that would be just take one of the Allen wrenches and push it down flat and shove it underneath the timing gear. And I finally figured that out after trying to figure out a way to get it under that timing gear. But with that said, it's a 300 by 300 machine, so it's smaller than the standard, but you can get the upgrade kit if you wanted to make it 400 by 430, which is just slightly larger than the standard machine. As far as the software goes, there was no problem with that whatsoever. It connected right up to, now I didn't use Laser Gerbil with it, though it did have some Gerbil files, included some test files. You could always download those from my forum. I did use it with lightburn, and lightburn recognized the laser right away. I had no trouble setting it up. It really was a 20-second setup in lightburn, so that wasn't a problem. There were no additional files that I needed to download, no lightburn configuration files. I mean, it connected right up and it worked perfectly. Now, if you're a new user, this may not be the laser for you. You may want something that when you turn it on, it homes and does all that good stuff. This does not have limit switches. It does not have hard stops. So when you turn it on, you must before you turn it on, you must manually put it into the home position. If you're okay with doing that, and then turning on your power and working pretty much in absolute coordinates or user origin, it's going to work out just fine. So I did, in fact, test the accuracy of running more than one cut in the same place, and it was perfectly fine. So as long as you home it, and what you can do is turn it off, home it if you need to home between jobs. Just turn it off, move it to the 0-0 position, turn it back on. I do suggest that you mount it to, a wasteboard, because you don't want it to move at all. Some of the good things that I liked about it, obviously, was the little focusing knob on top. So that is how all of these lasers should be made, with that knob on top to move it up and down. Because when you start doing the knob in the front and on the side and everything else, when you turn the knob, it raises or lowers the laser module. So you never get an accurate focus. This one, you get a perfect focus. And for the advanced user, or for somebody looking to add another machine in their shop, maybe you're doing production runs, this is the perfect machine for that. You can still run, I don't know, 6 or 9 coasters on it. Maybe not 9 because of the 300 by 300, but that's another thing too. On the 300 by 300, I was not able to get a 300 by 300 frame. The closest that I got was 299. Actually, it was 298.5 by 298.5. So that's something that you might want to take note of. It could be just this machine. It could be, the manufacturing of the extrusion is off slightly, but 298.5 was the maximum framing on this without it hitting the rails. And at first, I did a 300 by 300 and it banged both rails. So 298.5 by 298.5 is the more accurate representation of the workbed on this laser. But then we've got that focusing cube, the focusing steel cube, and not really a cube cylinder. But at the very top, now I did do the ramp test on this, and this focusing cube is dead on for engraving. So the ramp test was perfect. Right on the top level would be your engraving, and it does some super fine engraving with that 0.08 spot size. I mean, super fine. did a wonderful job on that. And I think this is probably the strongest 5-watt laser that I've got out of all the machines that I've been testing. I think I can comfortably say, after running the image tests, the raster tests, that, you know, this thing burned that wood up. So compared to all of the other lasers that I've tested that are 5 watts so far, I'm going to say that this one outperformed them on the image tests. And, you know, like I said, could because of that focusing. When you get a perfect focus, you get a good job, you get a good burn, a good clean burn. Burns better, it burns deeper. You know, everything is better about getting a perfect focus. And on that cube, you drop it down 1 millimeter, and you're ready to cut 2 millimeter wood. Drop it down to the 3rd level, you're ready to cut 4 millimeter wood. Drop it down to the 4th level, you're ready to cut 5 millimeter or more. And I did run the test cuts, but I didn't want this video to get too long. I was able to cut 5 millimeter plywood. That was at 100% power, 80 speed, 1 pass, cut right through. So yeah, this is a nice little machine, and all of the benefits to it. Now, I didn't test the Wi-Fi on it. So the machine comes with Wi-Fi, and it comes with the card reader. And where did I put it? Oh, stuck in my computer up here. Let me pull this out. And they put their name on the card reader. Hey, you know, everybody in the laser business, if you're watching this video, put your name on the card reader, because you know, this really helps for people that have multiple lasers. You know, I wind up having to go back there on the fiber laser every time I get one of these adapters, and I have to burn the name onto it. So the average user doesn't have a fiber laser sitting behind them. So, you know, put your name on on these things. I like that. But I didn't use the Wi-Fi. I'm not a Wi-Fi kind of person. Wi-Fi meaning the you know, the Bluetooth on your cell phone. I really didn't think that there's time enough to test all those features, or that anyone's really interested in it, because I really don't know anyone that uses their cell phone with Wi-Fi. You know, it's a feature that really nobody uses, at least nobody that I know. So I wasn't able to test that. But all in all, you know, this is a basic machine. It came with good belts. The timing belts were nice. They're quality belts. It went together very easily. The instructions were really pretty good until you got to that part about the X. You got to figure that one out on your own. But still, the instructions, after looking back on it, you know, if I really analyzed what they were saying in their Chinglish, you know, I could have done that without their help. But yeah, that's the only pet peeve I had with it, was assembling that X. But that's a one-time thing. You're never going to do that again. And there's all kinds of assembly videos out there on this particular machine. Even though they're an older model, they all go together the same. So the question now, the ultimate question is, would I recommend it? And people ask me every day, would I recommend a laser? And I don't recommend lasers. So I just don't. I don't recommend lasers. I tell everybody the same thing. Go out there, take a look at all of these review videos. Now keep in mind, a lot of these review videos are going to be fluff. You know, people are excited to get something for free, and they don't want to talk about any of the downfalls, so they give them a good review. And I've seen a couple of them where, you know, there are some really so-so machines selling for a lot of money that people are promoting to be a great machine. I'm not saying this is a great machine. I'm telling you exactly like it is. It's a $299 budget laser. It's a good add to your workshop if you need another production machine or two. So, you know, the price is right. In this price range, you know, it's a really good laser. And like I said, it outperformed any of the 5 watts that I've been testing. So I will say that. Will I recommend it? I don't recommend lasers. Do your homework, do your due diligence, and, you know, do your shopping around and decide which one has the features that you want the most. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this review video. I enjoyed making it. And this is going to be the May laser raffle. So not this particular one, a brand new one is going to be shipped to you anywhere in the world from TwoTrees. So this is our raffle laser for May of 2022. And I wish you all good luck. There'll be a link in the description to the raffle, and you can enter every day. So enter to win. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.